historians. This is Wendy with AP History Help, and this is the AP History Help podcast, where you will learn everything you need to know about taking AP history classes, from skills to content, from historical thinking skills to themes in history. Whether you're taking or thinking about taking AP World History, AP US History, or AP European History, this podcast is for you. Be sure to check out the episode list and show notes to find the topics that you need help with. Email me at wendy@aphistoryhelp.com with questions that I might answer on future episodes. You can also follow and interact with me on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube at AP History Help. The title this week is Short Answer Questions Have Long Answers. And right out of the gates, I guess I need to qualify that. To put it in perspective, each written response to the SAQ, or short answer question, is about 3 to 5 sentences per part. But you're going to end up responding to 9 prompts in total. So you're going to have to write 27 to 45 sentences. So yeah, not that short after all. Stay with me today as I talk about what to expect from the SAQ, why you shouldn't be overwhelmed by 27 to 45 sentences, a great formula to use for every single question, and where to find sample responses that will show you how others have done it right. But first, did you listen to my last episode? If you did, you heard my expert advice on answering the multiple choice questions, with a breakdown of types, strategies, and what you need to know to pass the exam. The good news is that if you didn't listen, you can just go to your podcast player, my website, AP History Help, or even to YouTube and look for episode 8 of AP History Help. That's right, they're all on demand for your listening pleasure. Oh, and by the way, the AP exam will be over in 6 months from this episode's release date. I don't say that to stress you out, but instead to help you bear down on getting a little more serious about your preparation. Have you checked out my AP History Success Journal? It's available for print on my website and hopefully coming soon on Amazon. Now for this week's show. First, we'll take a look at the details of the SAQ, and in the second half of the show, I'll talk to you about strategies for answering these question types. The AP History exam has 2 sections, each with 2 parts. Section 1, Part B, is the MCQ, and Part 2 is the SAQ, or short answer questions. This part is worth 20% of your overall test grade, and you get 40 minutes. So for those who listened to the last episode on the MCQs, you can do the math to determine that you get an hour and 35 minutes for Section 1, and that Section 1 counts for 60% of your test grade. When all is said and done, you will end up answering 3 short answer questions. Question 1 will be based on a secondary source. Question 2 will be based on a primary source. And question 3 will be based on the information in your head, no stimulus. You're given 2 options for your third SAQ, and you get to choose which one you'd like to answer. Questions 1 and 2 can be based on anything in pretty much the entirety of the course, but that depends on the course. For AP World, that's 1200 to 2001. AP Euro is 1600 to 2001, so not the first 150 years of the course. And AP US is 1754 to 1980, essentially just units 3 to 8. But then for questions 3 and 4, which remember you're only answering one of them, they're from different time periods. Breaking those down, and bear with me, in AP World, question 3 will focus on historical developments or processes between 1200 and 1750. And question 4 will be between 1750 and 2001. In Euro, question 3 is focused on 1450 to 1815. And question 4 is from 1815 to 2001. And last, APUSH question 3 is 1491 to 1877. And question 4 is 1865 to 2001. You can find that breakdown in the show notes. I am often asked if it's a good idea to answer both questions 3 and 4 to try and hedge your bets, meaning get extra credit, or if you blow one, you get credit on the other. The short answer is no. Definitely do not do that. Here's the reason why. When the readers are grading your response, if you actually had time to answer both questions 3 and 4, only the first one you answered will be read and graded. The second one will be completely ignored. Plus, you only have 40 minutes to answer the 3 questions, which is just 13 minutes and 20 seconds each. If you answer 4 questions, now you have just 10 minutes to answer each question. Trust me, you need all the time you can get. Instead of FAQs this week, I wanted to point out that there is a student or maybe their parent who found me on 2 different platforms. They are seeing me now for tutoring on Take Lessons, which is a platform operated by Microsoft, and they take on-demand courses on OutSchool to enrich their knowledge in AP World. By the way, those on-demand classes end up being just $13 a week, and here's a bonus you get for listening to the podcast. If you sign up for tutoring with me on Take Lessons, it's cheaper there than on OutSchool because Take Lessons doesn't take quite as much of a percentage as OutSchool does. I'll put links to both in the show notes. I would love to work one-on-one with you to help you feel more confident in your AP history skills. One service I offer is reviewing your writing on any of the written response questions. But do check out some of the on-demand courses I teach on OutSchool. They call them flex classes, and they could help enrich your content knowledge at your own pace. Don't feel overwhelmed by the SAQ. There is a nice little formula to use that will ensure that you can confidently get the points as long as you answer the question correctly. Some teachers use VET and others use ACE. In both cases, you are doing the same 3 things. VET stands for vocabulary, explain, and this means, or tie back. And ACE stands for answer the question, cite your evidence, and explain. In other words, in your first sentence, you restate the question that is being asked with a brief one-word or phrase answer that includes a vocabulary term. Then you explain what the word or phrase means, and last you explain what that has to do with the question that was being asked. So if the question asks, identify one economic development in the period 1750 to 1900 that led to the situation represented in the map, you could start with one economic development in the period 1750 to 1900 that led to the situation represented in the map was, see, I just restated the question, and now comes my brief answer, the Treaty of Nanjing. Then go on to explain what that was. This allowed the British and any Western power to freely trade with the Chinese on their terms. There, you showed you know what it was. Then we finish with, this caused the gradual decline of China and the appreciation of the economies of many Western powers. Those words, this caused, are the same as this showed. It ties your explanation back to the original question. Now keep in mind that this is only 1/3 of the question. By the way, that was from the 2022 AP World exam. And I should point out that there are actually 3 prompts in each question, and each answer is worth 1 point for a total of 3 points per question. Now you only need to write 3 sentences in response to each prompt to get that 1 point, but do the math with me. 3 questions with 3 prompts each and 3 sentences in each response to each prompt equals 27 sentences. Sometimes you might want to explain a little more because you find you just can't do the job in one sentence. If that's the case, keep it to no more than 5 total sentences. Altogether, your short answer questions end up being 27 to 45 sentences of writing. Might I remind you, in 40 minutes. See why you don't want to waste your time answering that 4th question? Here's another example from the APUSH exam last year. Briefly explain one similarity in how 2 reform movements attempted to change United States society in the period from 1880 to 1920. Here is a response that earned the point. The similarity between the women's suffrage movement and the temperance movement is that both were mainly led by women, and second, they also led to amendments in the Constitution. There's your brief answer. Now explain. For example, the abolition of alcohol was the 18th Amendment, and the 19th Amendment granted women's suffrage. Now, technically, that response was only 2 sentences, and it didn't really tie back in the end, but they did, in fact, respond accurately and completely to the prompt, and they got the point. Now it's time for Wendy Teaches History. What did you learn about the first Thanksgiving when you were in elementary school? Do you ever notice that elementary school history is not the same as what you learn in high school, especially AP history classes? Think for a while why that is. Try, for example, explaining to a 5-year-old about Columbus committing genocide on the Arawak people on the island of Hispaniola. It's kind of why we don't show little kids R-rated movies. They can't handle the truth yet. But by the time you're in high school, we can present evidence that supports honest claims. So I encourage you to use a variety of sources before arriving at your own conclusions regarding any topic or questions you might have about history. And look at what sources are being used by the books, articles, website you're reading, or videos you're watching. This is why historians use documents with multiple perspectives. With that being said, according to James Loewen in Lies My Teacher Told Me, the true history of Thanksgiving reveals embarrassing facts. The Pilgrims did not introduce the tradition. Eastern Indians had observed autumnal harvest celebrations for centuries. Although George Washington set aside days for National Thanksgiving, our modern celebrations date back only to 1863. During the Civil War, when the Union needed all the patriotism that such an observance might muster, Abraham Lincoln proclaimed Thanksgiving a national holiday. The Pilgrims had nothing to do with it. Not until the 1890s did they even get included in the tradition. For that matter, no one used the term pilgrim until the 1870s. Many historical sources have gotten better about not whitewashing history and have brought to the forefront many marginalized people, like the indigenous populations of the Americas. But always look for those multiple perspectives. Okay. To wrap up our episode on the SAQ portion of the exam, I wanted to clarify that you do not really need to follow the formula of VET or ACE to get the credit on this question. As long as you answer all the parts of the question and use complete sentences, you might still get the credit. Yes, you must write in full sentences, no outline or bullet point list. But here is the thing. Why not make it super easy for the reader who is grading your writing to see that you are answering the question and that your answer is simple and straightforward and right there? I would be happy to send you some sample SAQs with the grading commentary. Just shoot me an email at the address that I'll give at the end of the show and let me know which AP class you're taking. But remember, with this entire exam, time management is essential and that each part of your SAQ answer is worth 1 point. You have 13 minutes to read, brainstorm, and write your answer to all 3 parts of the question. Do not provide context. save that for your DBQs and your LEQs, which is a great segue into the next 2 episodes. Episode 10 will be the DBQ and episode 11 is the LEQ. I will share the rubrics with you and describe what we are looking for. I'll give you some tips and strategies to get better at writing DBQs and LEQs, as well as how you should work with the documents for those DBQs. Hit that follow or subscribe button so you'll be notified when a new episode airs. Do me a favor and email me at wendy@aphistoryhelp.com if you have any questions or suggestions, or just to tell me that you listened to or watched the show, or if you're needing an SAQ workout partner. Hey, if you email me and tell me that you listened to this episode, I'll give you 25% off a 30-minute one-on-one tutoring session. That's wendy@aphistoryhelp.com. You can also follow me on Instagram and TikTok at aphistoryhelp. Did you know that this podcast also airs in video form on YouTube? The channel is called The World is Your Classroom. I'll link to it in the show notes. If you subscribe there, you'll get notified every other week when a new episode is uploaded. Whether it's social media or YouTube, you'll be able to comment, ask questions, and interact with me there. Tell your friends who are taking or thinking about taking AP History classes about the podcast. I'm here to help as many students as possible to be successful in the course and on the exam. That will do it for this episode. Don't forget to come to Wendy for AP History Help. This episode of the AP History Help podcast is now history.